This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Good morning, Ira. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I survived many hours at the Big Three at the Kaseya Center yesterday. Those guys tried to put on a show, but got to see Beasley, got to see Chalmers, got to see Gary Payton. So more of a reunion tour than anything.
That the Big Three stuff, the what is it? The Ice Cube stuff. Do you enjoy it at all?
Ice Cube was there, so yeah.
Do you enjoy that? Because I could not get into it.
I enjoy the nostalgia part because I know some players, so it was more about seeing guys and and sort of being around names like that. Again, they're trying to play at these big arenas. They don't need these big arenas. They don't get that kind of crowd. But this is typical off-season made-for-TV stuff. So, look, it's the slow season right now until we get into NFL preseason. There's not a lot going on, so they're trying to fill the void. Look, it's nice to see Michael Beasley enjoying basketball.
What was the crowd like?
4,000. They closed the upper bowl. I'd say there was about 4,000. And again, you know how it is, Big O. They paper the stands for a lot of those things. So I'm sure that was the case also.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there. But interesting, right? Leading into your thing, how three teams kind of set themselves up playing and setting it up and kind of the long play to kind of make the acquisition. So two have been successful. The groundwork has been laid out for the Miami Heat to try to acquire Damian Lillard. What's the hurdles that are happening right now?
The hurdles are as simple as Portland Trailblazers going, give us everything you have. It's like, instead of saying what an equitable trade is, they're going, what do you have? And the Heat are saying, well, we have these draft picks, and we have these players, and we have these prospects. And the Blazers going, okay, we'll take them all. Well, that's not how you make a trade. And that's not how you make a trade for a 33-year-old player with $200 million left on his contract when there is no tangible interest from any other team to spend that kind of money on that kind of player. So you know what, Big O? If waiting saves the Heat 1 or 2 or 3 first-round picks, there's no downside to waiting. And like you said to your lead-in, you're not going to remember what you lost. No one is going to be talking about the Miami Heat losing Gabe Vincent and Max Strus if you land Damian Lillard. So this is one of those things we all rush to do our free agency report card and off-season report card. The Heat are a total incomplete right now. If they get Damian Lillard, fantastic offseason. If they don't get Damian Lillard, a negative offseason because they lost 2 playoff starters. But again, there's not another tangible game that counts until the end of October. We have 3 more months. The Miami Heat should not be in such a rush. You remember this, Big O. When they signed Bosh and LeBron James, in order to have the big festival party at the arena, they had to trade first-round draft choices to Cleveland and Toronto to get them under contract in time so they could have Eric Reed ask if they're going to win 7, 8, or 9 championships. They've learned a lesson. These are the dog days of summer. They know the Dolphins are about to start camp. No one's going to be asking every minute anymore. It'll happen when it'll happen. It can happen on the Heat timetable. It can happen on the Blazers timetable, but it's not going to happen solely on the Blazers' terms. Like I've written before at AskIra@sunsentinel.com, mentioned here in the Acura of Pembroke Pines report, you've got to get an equitable deal where both teams agree. So if Portland thinks they're going to sweat the Heat, hey, he's Pat Riley. He don't sweat.
No, and listen, when we look at this whole situation, in the end, Portland doesn't want to see Lillard in training camp. No matter what they say, it would be an absolute disaster to bring him back because then all hell will break loose. So I think by waiting, you probably will end up dealing from more of a side of leverage because as we get closer to training camp, that's what Portland wants to avoid because that will be an absolute circus. The national NBA writers will all be there expecting a Dwight Howard, Stan Van Gundy Part 2 disaster press conferences. If you remember when those two talked and that whole
in Orlando
thing.
and Dwight asked for a trade, Stan knew nothing about it. It was ugly. Couple of things. Damian Lillard has never played a game off the bench in his NBA career, not regular season, not playoffs. So if you're trying to feature Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, and Shaden Sharp and get them minutes, it just doesn't work. So it's kind of weird, Big O. Every minute that Damian Lillard would play for the Blazers going forward retards the growth of the future of that franchise. So it's actually an abject negative for them for him to be there. The Heat know that. They know that. It's interesting. Damian Lillard has never played a game off the bench in his entire career. Well, Scoot Henderson, as the number 3 pick, probably would like his career to be known as a guy who never played a game off the bench in his career. So he has to start at opening night. So now what about Dame? Well, you sure as hell can't have Dame there unhappy and then not start him also. It's not necessarily AC Green, but you get into the point of longevity. So the Heat know all this. The fact that Cronin sat there at Summer League, and I was at that press conference, and spoke about how the Blazers are sort of in the driver's seat in this situation, no, they're not. Damian Lillard is in the driver's seat. The Heat are sitting alongside of him in the sidecar over there, and the Blazers have to make the best of a difficult situation. NBA teams have had to do this all the time. The Lakers had to do it with Shaq. Other teams had to do it with players they knew they were going to lose, so they trade them at the trading deadline instead of losing them for nothing at the end of a season, which the Blazers could have done. So now they're sitting there, and yeah, I know it's a waiting game that's tedious for our listeners and viewers, but again, there's no game that counts until late October. There is plenty of time for Pat Riley to go to the Amalfi Coast, still come back, and get a deal done.
By the way, Heat fans, don't feel bad. You know what's going to happen in the end. Damian Lillard will be wearing a Heat uniform. Pat Riley will be running the Heat. Joe Cronin will be running the Blazers. Ira Winderman will be covering the Heat. Sean and I will be on every single day here. Feel bad for Tyler Hero. He's the guy that has no freaking idea where he's going to be. I know we all talk about Brooklyn, but really the guy that's really kind of like hanging in the wind right now, is again, don't feel sorry for him too. He's making a lot of money. He's got a beautiful wife, so his life ain't too bad, but still it's kind of screwed up for Tyler Hero right now.
You know what, Big O? I put it this way. If you're not the number 1 or number 2 on an NBA team, it's just life and it happens. If you're not Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo, hell, the Lakers moved off of Shaq. The Sixers have moved all these secondary pieces, the Ben Simmons and other guys over the years. The Heat have done it over their tenure. They traded away after the Big 3 era, whether it was Mario Chalmers, whether it was Chris Birdman Anderson. Hell, I'll give you the perfect example. The Heat traded away Eddie Jones. It happens. If you're not the number 1 or number 2 on a sport that only plays 5 guys at a time, you have to recognize that. But here's the lovely consolation prize. 4 years at least $120 million. So he'll be able to buy new friends wherever he lands. You have to know this going in. This is the NBA. This is a league more than any other league where great players get traded. And get traded rather frequently when things don't work out, even though they play great. I'll give you an example. The Golden State Warriors were dynastic with the team they had in place, but they wanted to be better. If you remember the first start of the Warriors dynasty, Harrison Barnes was a major component of that team. But then they said, wait a minute, we can get Kevin Durant. And Harrison Barnes would just scoot it off to Dallas, and that's it. Damn good player, damn good career, part of the resurrection of the Kings, but that's what happens. If you're not the number 1 or the number 2 guy, hell, look at DeMar DeRozan with the Raptors. He was the face of a franchise. He wasn't Kyle Lowry. He wasn't Kawhi Leonard, who they traded him for, so he was disposable. Tyler will get over this, and this probably won't be the only time in his career that Tyler winds up getting traded. Very good players in this league have been traded a very lot of times.
James Harden is probably a great example of an exploding cigar. And so it could look great, like a beautiful Perdomo cigar, a 10th or a 20th anniversary, beautifully constructed. It pulls great from beginning to end, great flavor. But a James Harden cigar, at one point or another, it's going to explode on you. And so now comes Daryl Morey trying to be Mr. Smart Guy. And so now you keep James Harden because you think you can deal him Well, all of a sudden, James really wants out of your franchise. You're over asking, for what you think his value is. You're overvaluing him out there on the market. Is this now an exploding cigar on Daryl Morey on the business side? Because either he's sabotaging it, thinking that he wants to keep him, or this guy really just wants to get out and go to the town that has the better strip clubs. It just seems like this is becoming a disaster because Daryl Morey, did he think there was going to be a big market for James Harden? Because there obviously isn't much of a market for James Harden at this point.
No, he thought he was going to sign James Harden to an extension before James Harden opted into the final year of his contract to basically force a trade from there. So he's, you know what? It's caveat emptor with James Harden. You learned it with the Rockets. You learned it with the Nets. You're learning it with the Sixers. It's interesting. You talk about how the Heat might not be doing right by Tyler Hero for loyalty. James Harden's the opposite. He has no loyalty to any team he's on. He is in the wind and he is in his whims to get what he wants. And here's the other part of the NBA. Players also get what they want. And you have to deal with that. That a contract doesn't mean diddly, we found out. Kevin Durant started moaning last season. By mid-trade deadline, he got to Phoenix where he wanted. Players get to be where they want. And we're seeing that now, that with James Harden, the same thing. It's interesting. I would love for the Heat to get Damian Lillard. I think he's a great fit. James Harden is a Hall of Fame all-time talent. I would not like the Heat to get James Harden. I just don't need with that headaches. Damian Lillard has never been a problem. Damian Lillard, you know what he is? He's Goran Dragic. Goran Dragic was a great citizen with the Suns, but he decided he wanted to go somewhere else. His agent helped engineer the trade to the Heat, but he left on good terms with the fans there. He knew his image mattered. Damian Lillard's the same thing. Hey, guys, let's not make this public. Let's just get it done, but it's not. But Harden doesn't give a rat's butt. He doesn't care if the fans in Houston don't like him, the fans in Brooklyn don't like him, the fans in Philadelphia don't like him. He just is in his own sphere. Those are the most dangerous players. Now, if you're Michael Jordan, if you're Kobe Bryant, if you're of that level, Kevin Durant, you can do what you want. James Harden is not of that level. He's a one-dimensional, offensive, mostly selfish scorer who gets assists, but will not get the hockey assist and move the ball. So he's the kind of guy, it's interesting, Big O. We started this segment talking about how I don't think there's a lot of interest in Lillard because he's 33 and has $200 million left. I don't think there's a big market for Harden. Again, I think it's the Clippers who were desperate to make the Paul George and Kawhi Leonard thing work, but I don't think there's a lot of other teams. I would be shocked, and I have been shocked before. I would be shocked if the Heat would ever jump into the James Harden mix. I might be wrong, but I just don't see that.
No. I definitely wasn't asking for that. I'm just thinking Morey's going to have a hard time trading this guy because, his demands are going to be way too much because whatever team he goes to, they're going to have to talk some kind of contract. And then apparently he must be asking for too much. So what's his end game? Trying to keep him for a year or trying to keep
who knows, right? And this could be the perfect example of what Kawhi Leonard did. He went to Toronto for 1 year and then he bolted for the Clippers. I easily could see James Harden going to the Clippers for 1 year and Kawhi gets injured again and Paul George gets injured again. And come next summer, James Harden is off to the next thing. Maybe the Rockets start to turn it around with their draft choices. He wants to go back there. He's going to be in the wind, so there's no guarantee with him. At least with Lillard, and I know he's older. He's under contract for 4 years, for whatever a contract means these days. With James Harden, there is so much uncertainty because he's played this game all over the place. He gave up money to bring in his buddy P.J. Tucker into the Sixers, and now he's running away from his buddy P.J. Tucker, who's sort of stuck with the Sixers, who came just to play with Harden. So you never know what it is with him. He is the absolute definition of an NBA independent contractor.
You've been a longtime resident in South Florida, just like I have. Obviously, I'm born and raised here. And, in our history, we have memories of watching the Canes win their first championship. I still remember actually Jim Kelly getting to a Peach Bowl, which was like the biggest shit here in town. We were like on cloud 9 when Kelly and the boys got to the Peach Bowl. We have the Miami Miracle. We have Rex Chapman's 39 points. with the Heat
Perfect
with
season.
8 players against Michael Jordan. We have championships galore. Marlins, Heat, Canes, Dolphins way back in the day. And then we have all these magical moments in all these different sports that we can talk about. Even with Jim Larinaga has given us some magical moments. So did Leonard Hamilton, back in the day. Friday night, something that did not ever happen with the Strikers and Ray Hudson, something that did not happen with the Fusion and Ray Hudson, something that did not happen even with Miami FC a couple years ago when they beat 3 MLS teams in their run in the U.S. Open Cup. Soccer never had a moment in South Florida sports history. No matter how many times I've been a part of the other moments when I was a kid or an adult, those were moments for me and for Jeff Rusnick and for Michelle Kaufman, but we're in the minorities. On Friday night, Messi broke through and made soccer finally a moment for South Florida sports fans. Agree or disagree?
Agree to this point that Ira Winderman sat there and watched the entire broadcast on Univision, even though, because I didn't have Apple TV and I damn well was going to watch that. I had commitments. I couldn't get to the game. I'm going to learn Spanish through Messi. By the end of the MLS season, I'll be fluent. Big O, we can do a bilingual podcast here on our Acura Pembroke Pines report. So I watched that game. You can see the moments. I love the moments just before the goal, the teaching points. On one, when he kicked the ball ahead and there was a little timing and he says, you got to be ready. And the other play when they put him offside because the ball came too late. And he knew even when they scored that was going to be a no goal. So you could already see him synthesizing the game. And then when he has that moment and just that perfect, kick there or whatever, you just said to yourself, hey, this is going to be something special. I almost wish the MLS could jigger the standings so we have like a first half and second half schedule, because they are in such an intolerable hole that I think it's going to be the cups that they play in. They just made this up against the Mexican League to have a cup. There's the Lamar Hunt Cup, the U.S. Open Cup. Those will be the meaningful moments, the balance of this season, because I think if they win out in their regular season schedule, they probably will make it, especially if Messi doesn't play the games on turf that aren't on grass, which he never has before. That's a factor also. But yeah, and again, the whole thing of the stadium not working in Fort Lauderdale, the Miami Stadium is now only going to be about 1,500 more seats than what they have in Fort Lauderdale. I know it'll be more of a luxury setup. There'll be more for the team when they move to Miami, but the attendance is going to be the same. I want to see the games. I know it's hard with the Dolphins and with the Canes, but I want to see games at Hard Rock. I want to see him have that atmosphere. I want to see whether if they beat Atlanta on Tuesday and they advance in the MX Cup, whatever they do, move a game there, play a game there, because you know what the real Messi moment will be? When he scores a goal in front of 70,000 and you get that resonating at Hard Rock. So I think you do whatever you can to create that moment. But yeah, that was absolutely surreal. And again, it was a great night for soccer because I was going back and forth. I was watching the U.S. women's national team. So I was clicking back and forth. I never thought, being down here, Big O, that I would have dual soccer screens going to watch 2 games at the same time because they both had such meaning. So that made it even more of a night. So yeah, I like what he started. I'm concerned about whether he's going to play on turf or not on the road. That's a concern. But whatever it takes, move games to Hard Rock. It's early enough. The Canes don't play a meaningful game till September. You have that window open right now. Take advantage of it. It is a fantastic soccer venue, and you really fill that place and really create an atmosphere.
Oh yeah, they'll sell every ticket in the stadium if they play there. They're talking about if they make it to the U.S. Open Cup final, that they'll play the final there. If they are in the semifinals, so they're only one win away from being in the finals. And Jordi Alba didn't even play on Friday night, and those guys still are not even. They don't even have their wind yet. They can't even play a full game yet.
Most international leagues are just they're still playing exhibitions. Yeah, I mean they're still warming up for their August start of the season. So we have this convoluted schedule that no one else in the world has when there are these international friendly periods and we're still playing league games. But again, you have to make it work within the American sports scene. You can't be playing into the late fall against the NFL. So it's just a little bit different culture down here.
Yeah, you got to deal with the monster in this country.
Yeah.
You got to avoid the NFL if you can. All right, what do you got going on in the Sun Sentinel so folks can check you out?
So I wrote a story. I talked to Gary Payton yesterday, and the contrast and the similarities between his situation and Dame are incredible. They're both from Oakland. They're both point guards. Gary grew up with Damian Lillard's father. They both have the same agent, Aaron Goodwin. They both forced their way out after more than a decade in a Pacific Northwest team. Gary Payton forced his way out of the Seattle Supersonics. Dame's trying to get out of the Portland Trailblazers. Of course, Gary Payton came here, won the championship in 2006. And what I love about what Gary Payton told me yesterday at Kaseya Center was, yeah, I went to the Lakers with Mailman to try to win a championship with Kobe and Shaq. And I came here to try to win a championship with Dwayne and Shaq won. And he goes, don't give me a negative about chasing rings. That's why we play the game, to try to win a championship. And Damian Lillard has had such few opportunities to do that in Portland. He deserves a chance alongside Jimmy, alongside Bam, to play for a championship. There's nothing wrong with it. You've mentioned, Big O, over the years, the hockey similarities where you let a Ray Bourque or someone go to win a championship somewhere because it's only fair. So if you get a chance, that's online in your paper this morning in your driveway at the Sun Sentinel. But you know what? If the glove, a Hall of Famer, Gary Payton could have done it, nothing wrong with Damian Lillard trying it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. He deserves that opportunity. He gave everything that he could possibly give to the Portland Trailblazers. Nobody should be mad in Portland. He deserves an opportunity that he's never going to get in Portland. So follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. Ira, as always, thank you. We'll catch up next week, my friend.
Catch you next week. I'll bring our special guest star, Damian Lillard. Thank you, Big O.
You got it. There you go. All right, good stuff with Ira Winderman and our Acura Pembroke Pines, Miami Heat, and NBA reports.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.